We're live. What's up, Naki?
What's up, Carl?
It looks like we have My Little Tongan on today. It's the Faika broadcast on Tuesday. It's our midweek. It is Mokiana Kamisese Tauteoli right now on the Faika podcast. Go ahead, Naki.
Chris. We have Chris on because his beautiful wife is like we all have kids. She's watching the kids downstairs. So if she can escape, well, not escape, but if she gets a minute, she'll hop on. So we have Chris, who is again the one of the creators, along with his wife Mokiana Tauteoli. They are an independent self-publisher and creator of My Little Tonga. Chris, I don't want to read your bio because I want you to tell us everything about it. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your wife, your family, and where you grew up and where you're currently living.
Hey, just want to thank you. Start off, thank both of you for inviting us on here. And my name is Christopher Tanata Tauteoli, and my wife is Mokiana. Her maiden name is Kamisese.
Yeah.
Um, and we're both originally from California. She's from the Bay Area, grew up in San Bruno's, South City, San Francisco, and I grew up in the Inland Empire, San Bernardino County, but mainly in San Bernardino City. And then our parents we're both first generation Tongans in the States. Our parents are both born and raised in Tonga. Her father is Lesiate Kamisese. He's from Owiha, a village in Hapai. And her mother's from Pelehake, which is a village on the right side of the main island, Tonga Tapu. And my mother is Mapeli Moala. She's from Pea, Tonga Tapu. Grew up in my grandma's village in Vatu, and my dad is Fifita Tauteoli from Hateho, which is next door to my mom's village in the same island of Tonga.
Wow. Wow. Do you have siblings?
Yeah, so I come from a family of 11, and I'm the middle child, and my wife comes from a family of 4, and she's the youngest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a struggle, huh? She's the baby.
Yeah. And I'm the middle child. I'm the sometimes the forgotten or bridge that keeps the older siblings and the younger half together. And we have 2 kids, Fifita Tauteli and Mapeli Tauteli, which are both named after my parents.
Oh,
I'm gonna custom the, you name your first child after the husband's side, but we also named my daughter after my mom as well because my mom is a big part of my life, and
yeah.
wanted to give that to my
Is
mom.
it you name after your first your children after your side, or is it I thought it was your sister, your oldest sister names your children.
Yeah, so just the first child, it's your oldest sister, which is usually your fahu or
Yeah, your father.
yeah, and but on the second one on my daughter, I wanted to name after her. So I chose me and my wife. But at the same time, even though that's the culture aspect, I allowed my wife to, because that's her kids, decided what she wanted to do as well. And her being her, she wanted to do that, to name
Oh,
my dad.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Where did you meet her?
So we met through mutual friends in Salt Lake City, Utah. We both ended up moving here about a couple years back, and then we met at we're both members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which are a lot of Polynesians Pacificas are, and we met each other at the Young Single Adult Ward.
Yeah. Nice. And how long have you guys been together?
We've been married since 2018,
2018, and you have 2
April
children.
7th. Yeah.
Awesome. And so you guys met, you start your family, and then what motivated you to start My Little Tonga book series for children? How did that how
Uh,
did that come about?
it was mainly our kids. My wife, she was, I give credit to my wife. When we were first found out we were going to be parents and she was expecting, she started looking at the way how she wanted to raise her kids or what she wanted to do. And she started looking for all type of books, or studying like the best development, learning, teaching methods as parents to children. And then we just bought a lot of books before my son was even born. And then we had like they have their own little library, children library. And I told my wife one day, I'm like, we need to buy some more South Pacific books or Tongan books. So we started going online, and we were looking, and we couldn't really, it was very scarce. We couldn't really find a lot of books. There is children books already written by Tongans, but a lot of them didn't really cater to readers that are English based. Yeah. So we wanted to, my wife was just sitting there, and she was just had a epiphany and was like, why wait for some writing when we can do it ourselves? So she just started last year, April, from scratch. And everything we see now, we didn't imagine we'd be where we are today.
I know I feel like you guys popped up and then you just blew up, because then I seen you guys doing other interviews with people, which is awesome. Do you guys speak fluent Tongan?
No, we don't speak fluent Tongan. We understand it and we speak a little bit, but we're still learning as well.
Yeah. I know, that's like me. I understand it because my parents spoke it to me all the time. I am not comfortable. I can speak a little bit of Samoan, but I'm not comfortable enough to be, I'm scared because, the aunts, when I was younger, when I tried to speak, my aunt, the older generation was like, look at her trying to be, Palangi, or, I was like, okay, you just shot me down. Now I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Are your kids, are you hoping that your kids will get to learn the language through these books? And also, now that you're conscious of the language and wanting to learn it, do you think you'll have your kids probably bypass you guys in speaking?
Yeah. That's the goal, is for them to be fluent. But as we learn, we speak as much as we can to them. And my parents, when they're here, when they're visiting, or when they're at our house, or vice versa, when they're watching them, that's all they speak to them first.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said you were from the Inland Empire, and you can tell if somebody's from there if they say San Bernardino. If they say San Bernardino, maybe they're from there, or maybe they're not. But if they say San Bernardino, that's like speaking the language. So did you grow up in the Inland Empire? Did you go to high school?
Throughout elementary. I seen one of your interviews you had with on the Inland Empire. Was that like last month?
Yeah.
I was watching just watching some of your. Yeah, so I grew up there, San Bernardino City, elementary, middle school, high school. My dad moved there. He came straight from the islands, and then he bought a house out there like around 1982, 1983, San Bernardino. Norton Air Force Base was still open, so I know the Inland Empire pretty well, from Banning, Menifee, Riverside, Redlands. I can pretty much, yeah.
So was it military that brought your father there?
No, he moved out there because during that time he used to live in LA County. But during that time, the Inland Empire was developing, started, and the city was, and the state was kind of making it more cheaper, more affordable out there to move out that way. So a lot of people started migrating. He just migrated out there because the housing market was way, the cost was lower than compared to LA County. So he moved from El Monte, Pasadena area.
That seems to be like in the Bay Area. There's a whole bunch of people that are moving east, just out of San Francisco because of, there's developing neighborhoods and the cost is so high to live in the city. San Bernardino or Riverside specifically, they've done some really cool things. Like UC Riverside used to have, they probably still have a program where they'll give a scholarship to go through the doctorate program, but you have to work, I think your first 5 years in the city of Riverside, so that they're getting benefits from the education process. Um, is education, is that something that your kids, are they some whether you would think they're going to go you're fast tracking them to college? I know that lately a lot of the trade schools are becoming not replacements for college, but trade schools are becoming bigger than they were in the past. Is college important to the kids that you're bringing up?
Yes, very important. My wife, she graduated from college. I did most of it. I didn't finish. I have about like one semester left, so I need to finish. But that's a big factor in our one of the key uh, things that we want our children to have is education. Definitely, just that we want them to have multiple things to fall back on because we understand we're just having a little family. Um, the more outlets you have to turn to support your family, the better.
I think them seeing the entrepreneurial spirit as they grow up and they see, in the house, in the home, their family being business owners and entrepreneurs and people that wanted to make a difference, that saw that there was a need, and rather than just complaining about there's nothing out there for us, going out there and saying, well, there's nothing out there for us, but I can do something about it, and I can provide that, that niche. Did you think it would? Naki had talked about that earlier. Did you think it would? There was this much need or desire for what you're doing, or have you been surprised at the response?
We were surprised. We kind of just did the books mainly to start off. The books were just going to be like for our own kids, our immediate family, like our brothers, our sisters, and our cousins and their kids. And then when people started finding about the book, a lot of people thought we were going to go big. So we were like, when we started noticing the following started going up, we realized a lot of people want these books. So that's why we pushed to make it available to everyone and everyone. But the first launch we did, we only did it domestic within the United States and Canada, and then now we're available throughout the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
think,
we didn't see we didn't when we started we didn't think it was going to be like this. But we're grateful that we can just help give back to the culture any way we can.
yeah, I think it's a lot of second generation, that come to live in the States, and a lot of us don't speak the language or are trying, we understand, but we're wanting to get our kids involved and trying to keep the culture involved. So, and continuing, our history, that's our history. I'm finding that when we share your stuff, or when I see your posts on Instagram, it's like growing every day. And that when I talk to people, like before the interview, I was like, oh, they're like, oh, who do you have on? I'm like, oh, we have the creators of My Little Tongan book series. And that people know who you are, and so they're like, oh, I love that book series. And I mean, and I've started to pick up words out of the book because, our culture are intertwined, and that's all in the Bay Area. You're either married to a Samoan or you're married to a Tongan. And so I've been picking up words here and there, but I love the success that it's getting. I'm talking about publishing. I want to switch over. Did you go somewhere to publish it, or are you guys doing it yourself, or how are you getting the books out there distributed?
We're doing it ourselves. So we decided to be independent publishers because we didn't want anyone to control or tell us how we wanted to share the culture. I know a lot of people were telling us to go through this company or this outlet, but we didn't want somebody to. My wife didn't want anyone to control how her vision or change her vision of the why we did it.
Right,
To
right.
keep the why focused, and that was our kids and giving back to our culture. Because in our books, we always have like a dedication in the front.
Mhm.
And one of our books, the dedication is we are where we are today because of our ancestors,
Mhm.
decisions and the choices they made is a ripple effect of why we're standing here, whether we realize it or not. But what we do today will dictate and determine where our kids and our future posterity will be tomorrow. We just didn't want anyone to change our vision or our why.
I
That's
think
awesome. Yeah.
it's so, like in the Bay Area, when Naki was growing up in the Bay Area, there were the culture was really held together by, first generation parents and the church. So the church was so strong in the community that you interacted with, and you were in the Samoan community. And as the attendance with churches and people starting to move out of San Francisco, you just don't have that centralized. And speaking from the Samoan perspective, in the Bay Area, it just seems to be, and people are if you're not in the culture all the time every Sunday, then maybe you're not marrying a member of the community. And to keep the culture alive, I think that these are the kind of things that are going to be needed to keep Pacific Islander culture alive, because there's going to be more interracial marriages. There's going to be more interracial children. If we're not all going to church, it sounds like you met at the church, so that's a good thing. But I think the having things like this and Mato Samoa, Wilfanene, finding ways to teach the culture that may not be the same kind of path that was around 30 or 40 years ago is huge. Did you see that as, and it sounds like you didn't necessarily see that as a teaching the entire culture thing. It was more of, we just wanted material for us and our friends and family. Does it strike you as a sign of the times that you're able to do it by yourself, that you're not bound to? 30 years ago, you'd had to find a publisher. You'd had to find somebody who would look at it and go, this will sell, right? Or you might found somebody who's like, what, I don't even know if there's an audience for this. Does it strike you as a sign of the times that you're able to say, look, I don't want to be controlled. I want to be able to do this. I want to write my own narrative. You and your wife want to do things the way you want to do. Do you see maybe how that's different today than it could have been maybe even a generation ago?
Yeah, because when we were first getting into it, we didn't know where to start, where to go. We don't have any reference or any family members that had any experience it either. So everything was just learning from scratch. And like touching on your, I think today's world, you learn that there's so much free information out there with social media and technology, that if you want to learn something, you can learn it, and you don't. And like going back to what you said earlier, maybe that's the reason why a lot of people don't go to school, because a lot of it you can just learn self-taught. Go on TikTok,
Right.
YouTube, you can pretty much learn anything. And so we're grateful that social media and technologies allowed us to give us that right to create the narrative and the why. And like, and we've been learning while we've been going through this process, but also showing that the culture is not the same like it was. You're not like, you're not going to see, there's not a cookie cutter definition of a Polynesian family. They all look different, like families in general, they all come in different forms and definitions, and a lot of them are interracial. If you look at like our page, a lot of the kids that we use, they're not full Tongan. They're either half Palangi, half Samoan. Um, and I don't want to say like numbers, because that's something else we learned.
Yeah.
Like a percentage, like 30%, 20%. They're a combination of different cultures and
Right.
culture. You know what I mean? You just want to show that you're going
Yeah.
to see different type of Tongan families or Polynesian families. That's one
Right.
of the things.
No, you're absolutely right. There's so many mixed families, and that's just like the wanting to learn our culture and learn the language. Like my kids too, they're hungry to learn the culture. They're hungry to learn the language, and so I think getting kids started early will get them on the right track of learning the language and picking up words from their grandparents and you is a great start to help kids learn the Tongan language from the books, you know. So I think it's a great start. I think it's an amazing job that you guys are doing. I know that Ana Mahina, who is with San Francisco Tongans Rise Up, she just said she got her copies and that there's so many avenues for learning. And she works for the San Francisco Unified School District. So they might be, you know, if they're lucky, they're going to get those books into the you know, the younger kids' library at the school. So, you know, that would be awesome. They're starting to have programs geared towards Pacific Islander kids because there's so many of our kids and in San Francisco particularly that they're starting to have in language classes gearing towards both. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure your books will be in there.
The coming from Southern California, the Inland Empire, and then going to Utah, where there's a higher percentage of Pacific Islanders that live in Utah. Salt Lake City, for example, and Naki and I, we went there a couple of years ago. Went out to see like Fred Frost's shop. We were at Sangato Bakery. So as we were there, we were standing on a corner, and I think 3 consecutive SUVs went by with Polynesians in each of the cars, and like they didn't even blink an eye at us. Like it was like normal for them to see Pacific Islanders on the sidewalk, and we were like watching them go by, and it just struck me of what a high percentage and concentration there is of Polynesian people in Salt Lake City, and enough to where like, because if we were in, I don't know, Sacramento, and 3 cars went by and we were standing on the sidewalk, we would have been waving at each other like, hey, you know, very rarely do we see that. But it was just a different feel in Salt Lake City. Did you feel that when you moved out of Southern California and you moved to Utah? Did you feel like more of the culture being around you?
Yeah, I was it was so crazy because you go to a football game and half of the team will be Polynesian, and you know, from San Bernardino, it would be like you're probably the only Polynesian kid at your school or a handful. And a lot of times growing up, people don't even know what Polynesian is or Tongan. A lot of people will come up to me and ask me,
What are you?
are you? Are you mixed with? Usually they think I'm mixed, you know what I mean, with African American and something else. That's the guess. But just going back to like the question of being in Salt Lake or being in Utah, I loved it. It was just to see the people around everywhere, and like what you said, sometimes you'll go to a store and wave,
Yeah.
and they won't wave back, and then it's the norm for them. Where they're a big population. But yeah, it was just I loved just seeing the culture out here, how strong it is. You go to a barber shop that's owned by Polynesians, go to a restaurant,
Mhm.
Polynesian cops, go to the hospital and see a doctor come out and is Polynesian. It just gives you that, and I'm saying that they don't have that representation in other places, but in Utah, it gives you that another extra confidence that you can be whatever you want to be. You see your people represented in every aspect of the workforce.
Yeah, I always ended up when I would get that, like, what are you? I'm Samoan. What is? And I'd always end up punting and just saying, "Yeah, like Hawaiian, yeah, kind of like that." But that was like the reference point that because if they didn't know Tongan or Samoan, then we're gonna know Fijian, then we're gonna know, you know, Marquesan or any of that. So it was like Hawaii. You've heard of Hawaii? Okay, sort of like that, but
Yeah.
must be nice. And I always think of that when we're in Salt Lake and people go by and they just you kind of give you the eye, you know, the that or you know it's just common. It's not you know. Whereas if you're in
Yeah.
somewhere else, a different city, it's like you see another PI person, you're like,
Yeah,
hey,
you're gonna embrace each other. Yeah.
right, right.
Because
Um,
there's so few of us that when we see each other, we acknowledge one another.
Yeah.
I
what do
think
you think?
representation I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead, Naki.
Well, I was just saying representation, like you were saying, you walked into a barbershop that a Pacific Islander owned, you walked into a restaurant that was owned by, like, to see that, it makes it normal, and so that our kids can see that it's normal. And I think that's our whole thing, is trying to show any and all generations that you can write your own book, you can be a publisher, you just got to make the first step. So yeah, that I think representation is always the most important thing for your kids, to see people that look like them doing everything and anything, giving them the hope and the dream that I can do that too, or I can do that, I can do that. Not just limiting your kids to just a small little percentage. I'm sorry, Carl, go ahead.
No, no, that representation is everything, and then your kids are gonna see things that are much more normal in Salt Lake than they would, in Banning or Victorville or something. Um, so, what do you think is next for? Do you think has the explosion and the need and the desire for what you're doing, are you trying to catch up to that, or are there things on your horizon where you're thinking, hey, we're going to expand into this, like Naki's saying, maybe working with school districts, especially in Salt Lake. Are there things that you kind of have on the horizon?
Yeah, we definitely are looking to get into the school districts and help in any way we can. Um, but also listening to the people and seeing what's the need. Because at the end of the day, even though we want to give back to the culture, we're in the business of people, and we just want to listen to the people. And that's one of the great things we try to do on social media, is be interactive and be personable, even though it's a lot of people that follow us and support us. We just want to give back to them and just listen to what they're saying, what they want, what type of books or material uh, they're looking for.
That's
Definitely,
that's
yeah,
such a good business model, right? I mean, if there are business owners and entrepreneurs out there that are listening, to hear from me, to hear a business owner saying, we really need to stay in touch with our community and the people that we're servicing, that we're providing for, because we got to know what they want.
yeah,
Or, if what they want changes, we want to change with them. And I think that too many people get caught up in a business model, and they're like, no, it's these steps, and they kind of lose sight of, you got to be in tune to your community and your customer. Otherwise, the demand or the desire may change, and then you're not in tune with them. Do you find that you're able to keep up with that and stay with the pulse of your community through social media?
yeah. We feel like we've learned how to over time. There's still room for improvement, but learn over time how to balance it. And the number one thing we've tried to do is our customer service and our the way we serve our people is to keep it at the way we would want to be served, or the way they deserve to be served. I think that's one thing that I see, because a lot of times you hear the saying, support your local business or support your local poly business.
Mm-hmm.
Times when you try to do that, you don't get back, it don't reciprocate back to you what you paid for. So we don't fall into that area where people are supporting us because they're our blood, or they come from our culture, and then we don't give them back what they deserve and lose that loyalty. But the number one thing is just serving people the way they deserve to be served.
Yeah, that's something that Naki always says is shop pacifica, right? So, and I always follow that up with, don't just buy a shirt from a Pacific Islander vendor to buy a shirt, to donate $20. Like, it's good product. They're great designs. Like, it's not like you're just donating to a Pacific Islander business owner and you're not getting anything out of it. There's fantastic product out there. It's not, something where you're just giving away your money and you're getting a less than, a bad product or something. There's really good
Yeah.
stuff out there.
And right now, purchase your books online at mylittletonga.com, right?
Yes.
Are you looking to expand into like, bookstores or any kind of stores? And do you have like, I wouldn't even know how to begin to get into those places.
Yeah, we're looking into that. And actually, my wife is going to join us.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
hoping that's what you were looking over.
Yeah.
I was hoping that's.
So I'm happy to make it there.
Hi,
Hi.
Good
hello.
evening.
Good evening. I just had to put the kids to sleep.
Oh, that's, we were like, don't worry about we are Pacific Islanders. We know the kids got to go down so they're not running around and everything. But thank you
Yeah.
for joining us. We were talking about, I'm sure you were listening. We were talking about how we can buy the books online, and then how are you going to go about, getting into bookstores? Like, and I was telling him that I wouldn't even know is it a lot of research? Is it knocking on the doors? Like, how do you think you're going to get in there?
It's definitely a long time goal that we have to go into bookstores. It's definitely a lot of research. We've already been researching. And so there are a couple of resources or friends that we have. I have a couple of friends that are authors,
Mhm.
are different races. And so it's good to communicate with them and have ideas from them. And they can also help us with whether we want to expand into bookstores. But we definitely want to send our books to Tonga. And so we have family members there to send it to them so they can have the resources before we can reach out to bookstores.
That's awesome. Oh, I was just saying that there's Anna Mahina. She's with the San Francisco School District, so she could be a good person to reach out to, because they're like I was telling Chris, they're starting to have Pacific Islander studies for the little kids, and to have your books in the schools for the little kids would be great for them to see. Oh, not like, and nothing against Cinderella, but to see a
Yeah.
book that, that looks like me, So
Yeah, definitely agree. I think she did reach out to us.
awesome. She said she ordered some books, so
Yeah, so I'll
that's
have
awesome.
to reply back to her. But from her being in San Francisco, I think that's great since I grew up in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And so definitely has a special place in my heart.
You grew up in San Bruno. I know your husband covered, your parents, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words, just
Yeah.
a few things that he might not have covered, but he did a good job.
I hope so. So my name is Mokiana Kamisese Tauteoli, and so my maiden name is Kamisese. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My parents, they migrated here in 1988 to San Bruno, California. My grandparents, my maternal grandparents previously lived here before my parents moved here. And so born and raised there, went to elementary, middle school, and went to college at San Francisco State University. And then 7 years ago, decided to move to Utah. And that's where I met my husband, and now we have our family.
That's awesome. Yeah, he covered a lot. He did good. He did good.
Yeah.
Good, good. But is it hard to I guess so you're the youngest and he's like the middle child.
Yeah.
And so is it hard for you I know no matter what, the wife wins over everything, but when you first get married, like I'm the oldest of my siblings, and then my husband is the youngest. And so it was kind of hard, when we first got married, he was like still listening to his siblings. And I was like, dude, no. I don't know how that worked with you, if, you being the youngest, or it was just like right away, that's it.
Yeah, being the youngest, with my siblings, we definitely have good communication. They respect our decisions. And also with the book, they were actually the ones that helped give us feedback on what we can improve on the book and the illustration, because the kids in the book are my siblings' kids.
Oh, wow.
They're all my brothers, and my brother's kids and my kids as well. And so it was great to see how their kids came into illustration. And the youngest, one of my youngest nephew, he's 6. When he saw the book, he asked my sister, why did she create these books? And then my sister told her, it's for you guys to remember who you are and to learn where you come from. And then he said, well, I'm going to go make my own book. So he went and sat at a table and started writing. And so that's the kind of reaction I think is very special to us, to see that we have an influence on these younger ones, to show that they can do anything they put their mind into.
Exactly, exactly. And then to see, we keep talking about, to see people that look like them and
Mhm.
their aunt and their uncle doing, you know, what you want to do, what you're passionate about. It inspires kids, not only your nieces and nephews, but people that are following you on Instagram. You know, you never, we always say you never know who's watching you, because there could be a writer or an illustrator that is inspired by your story and your books. Who does the illustration for your books?
So I work with an illustrator. She's from SoCal. Her name is Alex Guerrero. And so we work together. I had to learn how to do digital illustration during the beginning stage of creating the books, but I needed help with more of the facial. We went through a long process coming out with how we wanted the illustrations to look. And it's only because I wanted them to look realistic, and that the kids can, like you said, when kids look at it, they can relate that that's them.
Yeah.
So it took a long process, but the outcome, I definitely love it. And we're currently working on our future books, and we're going to include other kids. So we have a whole variety of different types of Polynesian kids.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know Carl and I talk about when, like, did you ever think in your life that you would be doing illustration? Right. And then here you are, like, you just, like, years later, like, when you're growing up, people always ask, what do you want to be? What do you want to, I don't know. But then when
Yeah.
you found your passion, and then you not forced yourself, but because you were so passionate about what you were going to do, like, you learned something that you didn't think you were going to learn, right? Like,
Yeah.
I always tell this story. When we started our podcast, we didn't know nothing. And Carl literally got on YouTube and learned how to put our whole studio together. Like,
Oh,
he was the
wow.
electrician, he was the mic man. I mean, he did the whole everything, and all off of YouTube. And it took a long time. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how you find the time. But when you're passionate about something, it's not work, right? You just
Mhm.
love it. And then to have people love the work that you're doing, it's like really satisfying to your heart. Because I've been watching your page just grow and grow and grow. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys are going to blow up. And then we have to make an appointment. Because I've
Thank
seen you
you.
do a couple of interviews with other people. And I was like, I don't even know you guys. And I'm like, I'm so proud of them. You know, I remember when your page started, I was like, follow. So yeah,
Thank
you
It
guys are
you.
doing
means so
great.
much to to be making it, but making it with the right product, so to speak, right? Like, so I used to have these crazy ideas with, and I'd tell them to my wife, like when the internet just broke, I was like, ooh, I want to create this dating thing where I'm going to go to the prisons and take pictures of the inmates, and then we'll call it Friends Outside. And then if you want to, and it was a horrible, horrible idea. My wife's just like, what? Like, you get somebody killed doing that. Like, there's somebody gonna date somebody, or like
Yeah.
do something good. And I used to just keep coming up with these like crazy schemes, but it was never a good thing where I could look at it and go, like, I'm proud of that. Like, I'd be sit at a dinner table with the family and go, hey, look, this dating thing with inmates, and but for you to be providing a service, to be in your culture, to be working together, your role models for your kids, it's just amazing for all of the positivity that you're bringing. But I do have a question. It's making a marriage work is work, right? My wife and I couldn't work together. I don't know if Mose and Naki could work together, right? What do you guys do for self-care? You work together, you're raising a family together, you're married, you know what I mean? Like, there's all this
Yeah.
together time. What do you do for yourself? Like, what do you do self-care for Mokiana, or self-care for Chris? And I'll throw that out to Mokiana first.
Definitely having alone time. I do consider working on illustrations more of my alone time, and I do enjoy it. And so, like what Naki said, when you're passionate about something, it's not work.
Yeah.
I think for both of us, we have the understanding of our why, and this is all for our kids. But personally, we make it more personal. It's for our 2 kids. And so he gives me time to just have my alone time and to go out for a walk or to go to a store and have retail therapy.
Yeah.
We pretty much understand each other's boundaries of when we actually need that break from each other. And so we can be able to create a product like the books that we have.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. That's awesome because that's important to get your
Mhm.
own
Really
time.
important.
I just wanted to shout some people out who are on here who are screaming, "Hey, I'm so proud of you." We have Kristen Tawafiafi Shermer. Thank you for tuning in. Sakiusa Toarau Rabuli, probably from Fiji. Lika Tuivalala Kama. Lillian Kamisese Fakatoa is watching and is just so proud. Eddie Unatoa, who's in Hawaii, we know that. But Irai Hosea, who was our guest last week, he says, yes, when we see confidence, we emulate that. When we see self-love and awareness through something like a children's book, our imagination is not hindered by the lack of it. That insecurity doesn't even have a chance, manifest only positivity.
Love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
that
then
is.
Lillian says, love you, Moki and Chris. Y'all are amazing. I mean, and there's tons of other people who are shouting you out. They're just so proud of the work that you're doing. So you say you want to start making new books. Are you trying to stick to the same age group or a little older or just everything?
Basically, we're going to try to go everywhere. We just focus on baby books, but on feedback from older individuals. They definitely want something more of the culture and more in depth of the information that we can provide. And so we are definitely looking into that right now and working on a couple of books for the older readers.
I wanted to include Chris in that self-care question.
Oh,
What do you do? What do you do for self-care or alone time?
I really don't think be with my kids. You know, my greatest money come and go, material things, but forgot who the quote was, but my greatest treasure is my kids, and you know, being there with my kids, and I think just balance, just remembering what I have control over and what I don't have control over. That's a big thing, and remembering where I came from. I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I think just being with my kids and my family and supporting my wife. You know, from my dad's village, like I say, he's from Tauteoli. It might be in Samoa too. Like you have like a lot of jokes with certain villages or sayings, but in my dad's village, there's a saying, "Hateho vai vai me if ke me if," and it's kind of saying, "Hateho man," they run quick to the whistle, but really they say the whistle is your wife. You know, the joke, growing up, I would say I would never be that man, but you know, you love what you serve, and my wife is my heart, and my kids, and you know, it's hard just to like, you know, to do this. Sometimes we want to give up. We're both young parents. We both work full time. She works from 6 in the morning till 3. As soon as she gets off, she comes home and takes care of the kids, and then I run straight to work. I work from 3 till 2 in the morning.
Wow.
Home, and then wake up and we're back at it again. And do we do the books on the side as well? But I think just the fruits of our labor, just seeing the fruits of our labor, and you hear that noise, just the kids. Like my self care is my kids. You know, I can come home and be tired and only get 2 hours of sleep, but when my son jumps on me and wakes me up, or my daughter looks at me with those eyes, I'm no longer tired. And I think my kids is just my self care.
We just heard the fruits of your labor back there.
Yeah. That's the one that's not sleeping.
That's my daughter.
Well, I think that, you know, that's the way that, you know, Naki's got a full-time job. I got a full-time job, but there's no way that you could put the hours into something if it wasn't heart work, right? Like there's no way that I could put this work in that I do for Poly by Design after my 9 to 5 if I was working, I don't know, pick any job that I don't like. I would quit the job in a heartbeat. Like I would be like, I don't need this. It's got to be heart work. And, Mokiana said it earlier is, your why. And it's really clear. That comes through extremely clear talking to each of you that your why is what drives you. And, there's no way you put those kind of hours in, you get lack of sleep just by having 2 kids. First of all, just flat out, you already don't get sleep when you got two kids you're raising, young kids. But to have a whole business after your full-time job, I mean, those hours they're long, and they've got to be what you love doing, and you can just feel it talking to you too. So your social media, we definitely want to get that out there. Where can people find you? And are there any other social media platforms that you're looking that you may go into other than the ones you're on now?
So we are currently in Instagram and Facebook, and we are also on TikTok. And so social media management is definitely hard. And for both of us, I think for me, I'm more of an introvert. And so I'm more comfortable with my personal page, but the business page, I feel like it's more of a mental control of what you want to post and to post. But we feel like we definitely reach more individuals or our customers through those platforms. And so those are the only 3 that we have. I did start Pinterest, but I haven't really focused on that one for now. So just taking our time on what we can control.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if people would like to order your books right now, where do they go?
So the website is www.mylittletongan.com. You can go directly through there, or if you go on Instagram or Facebook, the link is in the bio and it takes you straight to that website.
That's awesome. We appreciate your time. I know it took us a minute to hook up.
Yes.
And your schedule, my schedule. And so I'm so glad we got to hook up, and we're so proud of the work that you're doing. We have people on like yourselves so that we know that you're inspiring people, but we also want people, mostly Pacific Islanders, to see people that look like them doing what they love, and that you can do whatever you want. And this is what it looks like. And that hard work, people always say, oh man, that takes so much work. But if it's your passion, it doesn't even feel like work. Like I'm tired from my regular job and I could right? I'm tired from my regular job and I can stay up doing this 12 to 16 hours all weekend long and I'm not even tired. But my regular job, I come home and I'm tired. So thanks so much for your time. Is there anything you want to get out? Any shout outs before we let you go?
I want to just thank our family and everyone that's bought the book, but mainly just our family and our parents, our community, for raising us and being there behind us, because everyone needs a support system. But most definitely, just for me personally, I just want to thank my wife. She's right here just for pushing us and having that desire to go forth with this and just want to thank my wife for it all started with her dream, and look where we're at today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mokiana?
I just want to also just thank my family, my mom and my siblings, for the support that they've always given to us, especially to my close family. Lillian, the one who was live, she's like my little sister. She was there from day one when I messaged them and told them, I'm going to create a Tongan board book. And so, like what Chris said, to have that support system, but also to our customers and those who share the books on their pages and tag us and comment, all of those, even though it's a small like or share, it means a lot to us, and it helps us remind us that we're on the right path. So just wanted to thank everyone, and also yourself, Naki and Carl, for giving us this opportunity to share a story.
We're the honor and the pleasure is ours. We always talk about that we want people to see Pacific Islanders not in the stereotypical light. So if you make it, you're an actor, great. If you make it and you're a football player, you're a rugby player, or any of the other things that people stereotype Polynesians as, fantastic. That's what you love to do. But it's important for Pacific Islanders to see us winning in life at all different things. And that's what we see when we look at you two. You're winning in life. So the pleasure is all ours. Go ahead, Neki. Take us home.
Please, everyone, go follow them on Instagram and Facebook. Go to www.mylittletongan.com and order your books. I'm going to jump on after this. Anna Mahina is looking for, books for the school district. So I'm just going to toss them over there. So thank you so much for your time. God bless your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love you.